Do you need me to wait, or are you good?
Go.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start. Okay, so on Tuesday, June the 1st, at about 2:52 p.m., medic responded to the 17,500 block of Caldwell Station Road, which is a mobile home community located just on the east side of Highway 115, after a family member had located a victim deceased inside his home. That victim was identified as 58-year-old Michael Eugene Elliott. It was apparent that Mr. Elliott had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. Therefore, detectives with our agency responded and a homicide investigation commenced. On Wednesday, the following day, June the 2nd, our detectives searched a wooded area that was directly behind the mobile homes and located a second homicide victim who was identified as 26-year-old Kendrick Logan Knight. Mr. Knight was also a resident of that same community. Mr. Knight had suffered from multiple gunshot as well as stab wounds. As the investigation continued on into Thursday, June the 3rd, detectives conducted a check the welfare at another mobile home within that same community as the first two victims. The homeowner had not been seen in a few days. Inside the home, detectives located a third homicide victim who was identified as 41-year-old Philip Darrell Jewell, who was deceased from an apparent gunshot wound. Inside that same home with Mr. Jewell, detectives also located the body of 21-year-old Michael Jacob Matoka, who was deceased of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. At this time, detectives with our agency believe that Mr. Matoka has been identified as the person responsible for all the deaths involved in this case. However, this is still a very active investigation, and anybody that has any additional information is asked to contact the Huntersville Police Department at 704-464-5400 or the North Mecklenburg Crime Stoppers at 704-896-7867. Now, I will give you guys the opportunity to ask some questions. Before we get into some of those questions, I would like to address some concerns that have been brought to our attention. One of those was why the public was not made aware of this earlier in the week. Due to the sensitive nature of the investigation and the fact that it appeared to be isolated, we did not believe that there was an immediate threat to the community. Also, another question that was raised was the amount of time the investigation took and when victims were located. Our officers and detectives were on scene continuously throughout those 3 days. So if you guys have any questions, I'll open those up to you.
Yeah, is there any indication that these four people knew each other?
So two of the victims were friends. That was the suspect, who is Mr. Matoka, as well as Mr. Knight. They were friends. Mr. Knight was familiar with all the other homeowners in that mobile home community, but we do not believe that Mr. Matoka was familiar with some of those individuals.
Do you have a motive for the shooting?
We do not have a motive at this time. We're not sure.
Did he live in the community, the suspect?
He did not live in the mobile home community, no. He is a Huntersville resident, or was a Huntersville resident.
Why not notify the public after the first homicide if the next two homicides happen in the coming days? Could those have possibly been avoided if the public knew about the first one?
So our detectives had canvassed that entire area. There were a few people that they were unable to make contact with initially, but family members were notified, and we made every effort to locate those individuals. But we felt that what had occurred that night had already occurred, and that there was no longer a threat. So that's why we didn't release it earlier.
Is it a normal procedure to find body after body, day after day, and then not let the public know? Is this normal for you?
This is not something that has happened before, so I can't say that it's normal. It was a very fluid situation. This was something where we were preparing statements, but then the situation would change. So it was continuously changing throughout those 3 days.
Officer, how did you learn of the one person and the next person that was deceased? How did you know? I know that your usually said the investigation revealed or something, but I mean, was there
So the first victim was the one where we had received the call from the family member. The second one, our detectives, throughout their investigation, they took it upon themselves to go search that wooded area behind the mobile home park, and they located the body on the ground approximately 100 to 200 yards behind the mobile home park. Because there is a very open field back there. Occasionally we do get people down in that area hear shots fired all the time, but it is, private property back there, so they're entitled to do that.
Are there any witnesses or body camera?
Body camera, or you mean?
Security camera.
There was not. We did locate some cameras on a property, but found that they were inoperable.
Why do people hang out there?
Hang out
You
where?
said There's a known area where people like to hang out, even though it's private property.
So there's a wooded area that's directly behind the mobile home park. There is a sign that says no trespassing or stop. There's a gate there, but that doesn't always stop people. People will go back there and they'll, they're shooting firearms, shooting off fireworks, whatever the case may be.
Did you make a mistake by not notifying the public about that first homicide?
No, we don't believe we did.
But there were 2 other people killed in the following week.
Correct.
So there's no regrets?
No. We believe we handled the investigation to the best of our abilities with the information that we had.
The first one was done on June 1st. Is that
Correct.
when the police believe the murder happened, or is that still under investigation?
So part of that is still under investigation. We do believe it happened in the early morning, possibly in the early morning hours or late evening hours of Monday, which would have been the 31st, Memorial Day.
Was the second victim a resident of the mobile home community?
Yes, he was.
Before you found the body of the suspect, did y'all have any reason to believe that he was involved in the first 2 homicides?
So we were looking for individuals, and he was one of the individuals that we were looking for.
So let me ask Joe's question again. If you're looking for him and bodies were found after that first day, putting some kind of lookout for him, did that not have made a difference potentially?
Detectives were still getting a lot of information, and we don't believe that that would have had an effect on the investigation.
Last year, there were 2 homicides in Huntersville. This year, 3 to date. What's the department's reaction on this?
So we still believe that Huntersville is a very safe place. Our officers do great work. They work hard in the community. This was unfortunately a very tragic and, again, isolated incident. And we're just going to continue doing what we always do, and we appreciate the support from the community. So we'll just keep
So
going.
There's never been a triple homicide in Huntersville?
Yes, this is the first.
Did the suspect have a criminal record?
He did not. Not that we located.
Do you have any indication if they were all killed on the same day and you just found them at a later time, or do you know if it was-
We believe that, yes, they were all killed on the same day. We just didn't find them until later on.
What kind of gun?
That's still part of our investigation that we're still working through, so we don't have that information to put out at this time.
Are investigators looking for any more potential victims?
We are not. We believe that everybody involved is, as far as suspects and victims, are all accounted for at this time.
Did the suspect leave something behind that gives you strong gut feelings that he was the person who did this?
Based on evidence that we found on the separate scenes, we do believe that this person is involved.
Can you say what that evidence is?
No, I cannot. Sorry.
For people at home who might be wondering and noticing how bizarre this is, do you have any words of comfort for them? Saying this is a safe community, but this just seems so strange.
It is, again, like I said, our officers do a lot of great work. We do a lot of community work. So our community is familiar with a lot of our officers, and it's just unfortunately one of those things that happens. We're providing support to the families and doing the best that we can to be there for them, victim and suspect family. So
Is this mobile home community known to law enforcement?
we don't go out there very often. Not sure in the last year or 2 years how many times we've been out there, but it's not very often.
And you said the suspect and Mr. Knight were friends. Can you talk more about their relationship?
Just that they were good friends. Not sure about the extent of their relationship.
kind of information would be most helpful to y'all at this point, for certain people to come forward who might know them?
If anybody knew them, if anybody has any information about what happened the night, Memorial Day night, into the morning of June the 1st, they're encouraged to give us a call, or if they heard anybody talking about it afterwards, we would encourage them to call.
Are people cooperating so far?
Yes. Mhm. Any other questions? All right,
So, all three were gunshot wounds, except for the second one was gunshot and stabbed?
correct. Mhm. Yep. Any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
thanks for coming out, guys.